But I think it's just so important that people understand that, the Bible is to guide, it's not to enforce, it's not a military regiment, it's not, this thing that's going on here in this conservatism is just crazy right now. Do you understand me? So we take people on the journey of reconciliation. To reconcile your sexuality and your faith and your journey is very, very important.
Thank you. Jide, people are able to donate to House of Rainbow.
It would be amazing. I think, and Jess has been very kind and said that, they'll put a bucket out. House of Rainbow is doing amazing work, like I said. We're currently doing work in 11 African countries. We also have work in 3 European countries, Austria, UK, and Sweden. It's really just supporting the African communities on the journey of reconciliation. We do a lot of work around seminars, around training and programs, just focusing on that journey of reconciliation. And the core part of it also psychosocial and pastoral care, because a lot of people have a lot of questions that sometimes triggers of mental health about God hates me, I'm an abomination, and so on. My parents hate me and everyone hates me. And we have to take them on that journey of reconciliation that, hey, listen, God loves you. If anything at all, the acronym for GAY is God adores you. So you can take that away.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I think what can be done to actually help people to see that it's the American sort of marketing that's the import, and it's not the homosexuality.
It's a tough one, isn't it? My mother is an African, Ghanaian, and she's 82, and it's taken the best part of 30 years for her to accept that I'm gay, there are people are gay, and so it's an ongoing conversation. She's being westernised, she's been here for more than half of her life. That conversation is still happening in this country with people in the black community. For some reason, gayness and homosexuality is seen as a white disease. And I think it's just a matter of having those conversations on a one-to-one basis with the people in front of us. Not that they're wrong. I've seen some very clever little videos, like people being asked, who are homophobic, having a conversation with someone who's gay, who might challenge them and say, well, when did you decide you were straight? And that usually floors people who are heterosexual, because they think, well, I didn't decide. Well, there you go. This is exactly the same for a gay person. So it's a matter of having dialogue, I think, is the key with anyone who you encounter who has those views.
So in some ways, thank you. I just want to say that in some ways, perhaps it is important that you do say maybe you're wrong, because you are the person on the ground. But I want to turn to Simon, because Simon, you've introduced me to some great resources in the past that have explored gay communities in Africa.
And the oldest one is Boy Wise Female Husbands, which is an insight into African sexuality, for those of you who are interested in the subject matter. So there is the question of how do you undo all these years of normalising homophobia, when for me it's the heterosexism that was exported that has created a homophobic vacuum within Uganda, and not just Uganda, as I say, in parts of across the black diaspora. In terms of what you do to challenge it, to answer the question specifically, I think it not only requires every individual to challenge at whatever stage they can challenge, because I guess I attune it to the way in which propaganda is used wherever propaganda is used, is that over time the propaganda becomes normalised, the message becomes normalised, and let's not forget here, that people are being killed on a daily basis. They're being rounded up, and it isn't even those who are known to be gay. What has been created is a vacuum whereby there is no discussion on the issue. So therefore, who constitutes a burning? Who constitutes a lynching? Today? Well, anyone who doesn't conform to a stereotypical view of what a man should be. So, for me, the question goes back to the gender identity, and it's interesting looking at the film that the one woman that we do here has question marks about her own sexuality, and has an internalized fear and hatred of self that perhaps has caused her to go down a specific route. But let's not forget here, we are talking about the lives of human beings that are being killed on a daily basis, purely on the basis of a propaganda, a well-resourced and very well-machined form of propaganda. And In my lifetime, when I was born, the UK laws on homosexuality were decriminalised. So let's not make out that actually everything is tickety-boo, as you rightfully say here. It takes time, it takes years, but it takes voices, it takes legislation. I'm really proud that I live in a city that is not only a city of sanctuary, but actually has been a city at the forefront of changing legislation. But laws are only laws, they're bits of paper, and as we have seen, they're easily torn up. They can be easily replaced, and that's why I would like to think that everyone in here applauds the need to go out there and to challenge what we've just seen, and to challenge it robustly.
The only thing I would like to add as summation is that when we talk about opportunities for people to experience other alternative ideas, then we have to think we are in an incredibly progressive city, and we mustn't abandon the fight for an alternative view of the West to the right, to the conservatives. We also, I think, need to think about, in some ways, what has kind of taken the place of the narrative, what it is to be black, and think about those resources which talk about a pre-colonial African identity. And part of that pre-colonial African identity was certainly an acceptance and an integration of different sexualities. This is something which in many ways not just been an import, but problematized and has divided black communities to the point where they don't even, I think, realize that they're still caught within a slave mentality. Moonlight is a film which will pick up on many of these themes. It will be available and be screened during January. Please check out For the Watershed. We would like to carry on this discussion through that film, Moonlight. I'm just flagging that up now because I know that we will be doing something more about it. Thank you to Afrika Eye. Thank you to my panel. Thank you to you all.